Hi there, I'm John Michael Garapi and this is Popcorn Roulette. Each episode I invite guests on the show, they suggest a movie and we get together and we talk about the movie. Today I have Dave Shultz with me. Dave, who are you? What do you do?
I live here in Haverhill and I work at the Eagle Tribune, actually is my regular job. And I do lots of stuff here at HC Media whenever I can.
Yeah, great. We're here to talk today about Network in 1976, featuring Peter Finch, Faye Dunaway, and William Holden, directed by Sidney Lumet, written by Patty
Chayevsky.
Chayevsky, thank you. But before we get into that, we have to eat some pretzels because that's what we do. We have ourselves some food before. You need mustard for your pretzel?
I do not need mustard.
Yeah,
mostly because I'll slobber it all over myself and I don't do that before we're doing the show.
I'm sorry that these were bought about an hour ago.
I love soft pretzels, so don't
they're
mind.
just not as warm as they need to be, you know?
Right. I think there's a Philadelphia thing. I grew up in Philadelphia.
Oh, did you?
For me, this is like soft pretzels.
Yeah. They just sell. I used to make soft pretzels I used to work for the theater. So it was one of those things that it's not hard to do, but it requires setup and anything where you can just crank it out. Why did you choose Network?
I chose Network because I first saw this movie when I was 11 years old with my parents. My parents were real moviegoers, and even when I was 9, 10, even young like that, they would take me to a movie like Network.
Right.
Because they thought it was something they wanted to see, and they didn't go, oh, we should only take Dave to Disney movies.
Yeah.
So 4 or 5, I don't think I haven't seen the movie since.
Yeah.
But 4 or 5 months ago on the Turner Network,
right,
it happened to be on, and I watched it, and I was blown away by what a prophet Patty Chayevsky was in writing this script, writing this story.
Yes.
It's remarkable to me what he foreshadowed, what was going to happen to the news networks and to TV in general, and even just our country, our world. As far as I was blown away by it.
Well, before we get too far into it, why don't we explain the plot of Network as quickly as we can, because this movie goes all over the place. Synopsis, what is Network exactly?
Okay, it's basically a story of a number 4 TV network, and it starts with their news anchor, this guy Howard Beale, and actually opens with showing all 4 of the news networks with it's Howard Beale, and then it's John Chancellor, Howard K. Smith, and Walter Cronkite. So 3 real ones, and then him in this fictitious 4th network.
Right, on Channel 3, yes.
Right, yes. And it starts with him opening up that he's about to be fired because of low ratings and stuff like that, saying he's going to kill himself on TV while he's on TV.
Right.
They're going to take him off the air, then they give him another chance, and then it just revolves into this poor money-losing network. The executives look at it and go, wow, his ratings went up when he said he was going to kill himself, so let's keep these crazy things going. And that's kind of how it escalates all the way through to the end when it has the kind of crazy over-the-top ending.
Yeah.
But and then in the midst of it too, there is the program director or whatever William Holden's character is, being the old curmudgeon guy who is basically he resists that, doesn't want them to go into this reality TV type of look. And the woman who takes his place, and they have an affair. And I said Patty Chayevsky was a prophet because it really is a foreshadowing of reality TV and our news being influenced by the corporation that happens to own the company that runs that news network. And nobody cared if news made money back then.
Yeah.
So this was really kind of looking into the future that was at least 10 years before that started to actually even have a hint of happening.
Which is funny because that's kind of the time, at the time, a lot of reviewers did not understand how to take this movie. They thought of it as being satire. They did not think of this as being prophecy.
Right.
Whereas many historians end up saying about 10 years later, we get Phil Donahue, we get Morton Downey Jr. And the entire attitude
and the Fox
changes.
TV network.
Yes.
Which was even before Fox News, they launched with Rupert Murdoch. All their shows were kind of scandalous. It was The Simpsons, which is funny to think at the time was scandalous, and Married with Children, and there were all these, and Cops. Shows like that nobody had ever thought you'd see on a network television station, but that's how Fox got made their name, I guess.
Yeah, was making themselves splashy.
Going not raunchy, but going racy and a little over the top. So
let's talk about the actors going on in this movie, because this movie has 5 Oscar nominations for Best Actors and Actresses and Supporting Actresses, specifically because both William Holden and Peter Finch were both given a nomination for Best Actor.
Right.
But that's very rare in itself.
Right.
Out of all the actors, who do you think actually did the best job playing their part?
That's
If you had one Oscar to give, who do you give it to?
oof. I would probably give it to Faye Dunaway. I
Yeah.
have to say. I think I would go Faye Dunaway though. My only reservation is she's one of the characters that doesn't really change much. She doesn't go really through much transition in the thing.
Yeah.
William Holden's character probably was a much more difficult role, I guess. So maybe I'm backtracking a little. Maybe I would give it to William Holden. But yeah, and it's funny. Peter Finch won it. But
Yeah.
his one I wouldn't have. I would have thought William Holden deserved the Best Actor. Award more than Peter Finch did.
Well, let's talk about Holden and Dunaway because like they have themselves a winter romance. The difference in age between these two are staggering.
Right.
What's Dunaway? Probably in her 30s, and Holden's in.
Watching it again, I kind of thought it must be like a 30-year difference.
Yeah, it's
between
got to
the
be.
two.
I
At
mean,
least,
like,
maybe even.
does it come off as believable to you? The idea that we can have a winter romance at this
I
age?
thought so.
Yeah.
I thought it did because her character is, as you learn as it goes, and even she admits,
Yeah.
she doesn't know how to love. She doesn't know how to anything. So for her, it would be easy for her to like fall for somebody like that, and also be able to, in a way, cast him aside and not care either if it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Because they have that little affair, and she kind of like that one timer, and then she doesn't seem to care when it's over.
If we're thinking like writers, is there like why does this movie have a romance in the first place? We are talking about news networks, but this seems to jump up in front and center in like the second act.
Right.
Why is Chayevsky adding this?
I actually think it's funny because I wasn't thinking about it on the writing the writing part of it, but I think that I guess the only way to really show his Act 2 decline after he is fired from the network, after resisting their ways and trying to take advantage of his friend Howard Beale, him going back to her after she steals his job and he tells her to F off. He goes back to her and then falls for her and actually in a sort of way pursues her or goes after her and then leaves his wife and moves in with her, and almost his like screaming out that I've lost my confidence, I'm not sure who I am anymore, maybe midlife crisis, I don't really like that term, but that kind of thing. But then at the end, he regains his confidence and regains who he is. I think it's a way for him to transition or to get through a tough spot in his life and then come out, still strong.
If we're to talk about Max as like as this being allegory, this entire thing being one giant allegory, Max is old news.
Yep.
And the old news system right here is, you're saying it's losing its way in a sense to what it's attracted to modern television.
Right, yes.
Actually, let's skip directly to the negative review. I put a negative review in each of these. We're going to talk about Chayevsky's writing a little bit more. It's, like I said beforehand, old reviews of Network that were negative, they tend to be more confused as to like, this could never happen sort of thing. And it turns out they weren't, it turns out they were kind of wrong. More often than not, they were television reviewers who were reviewing a movie and then saying like, this is my ballpark. I know that's not the sort of thing that goes on down there. But like this is a modern review by the name of Lumet and Finch Save Patty's Bacon by El Kabong from Amazon Reviews, 2 stars. I've always had a problem with Paddy Chayevsky's work. Nobody, and I mean nobody, actually talks like his characters. The plaudits he routinely receives for his realism are a mystery to me. Where Chayevsky stumbles is his egotistical inability to rein in his characters from speaking the author's mind all the time, as if they were being paid by the word with a bonus for the multisyllabic ones. These people simply never convince me that they actually might exist somewhere. Their only purpose is to open their mouths and to claim Chayevsky's meat cleaver philosophy and prejudices endlessly and artificially. Please don't take my word for it. Click the memorable quotes link in IMDb listing and plunge into the purple thicket of dialogue for yourself to see. But pack a machete. You might need to do a lot of hacking until you reach the daylight.
Wow. Wow.
So this person has a problem with Chayevsky's lack of realism in his script. Like, do you find that to be a problem at all, or?
I didn't at all, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't at all, actually. I actually even like, now I've never seen any of his other, I looked through the list of other things that he wrote.
Right.
I've never seen any of it, except I think Marty I did.
This reviewer has one on me, too, because I actually haven't seen Marty. I know enough about Marty, but I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Right. No, I actually thought the writing actually was, I actually even liked that, I thought there was a nice balance between the relationship between Max and Diana and the stuff that is almost comical, like the stuff with the communist woman and the terrorist group.
Right.
And they're sitting down with their lawyers and agents and discussing contracts.
Yeah.
Instead of worrying about like their communist message or their terrorist message. I thought that stuff was over the top, but I thought it fit in nicely with the rest of the story. Even the ending, which I think was a little, it's probably my least favorite part, but I still thought it still fit almost with the story. I thought the writing was terrific, and I think there's a whole bunch of lines in this movie that, besides the I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore,
right.
but the line that it said twice in the movie where because you're on TV, dummy.
Right.
I think that's just a silly, simple but great line in the movie. Oh, there's a line that Diana says when she's talking about why they put Howard Beale back on the air, and she says because
the American people are turning sullen. They've been clobbered on all sides by Vietnam, Watergate, the inflation, the depression. They've turned off, shot up, and they themselves limp, and nothing helps. So, this concept analysis report concludes the American people want somebody to articulate their rage for them.
But I think there's some great lines in this movie.
Well, let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. Like, how important is it that we need an angry prophet in our news cycle? Like, the people seem to be looking for this sort of thing.
Right.
Like, is it important we give this, like, as a news network?
Well, I think that's where. I mean, there's one of the things that stood out to me in this movie that I think that doesn't get discussed a lot even today with reality TV and stuff like that is the influence that that a corporation has over their news network,
yeah.
or a corporation has over their TV network.
Right.
Is that a good thing? I don't know. It seems like the news ought to be unbiased. It ought to be not have any kind of slant. There shouldn't be a corporation who is dictating, you can't do this, you can't stay away from reporting this news negatively about this company that we're about to purchase.
Right.
There shouldn't be that, but I'm sure it absolutely goes on.
That's one of the questions I end up having in my list is that how important is that a news network choose who is actually buying them out? Because that's one of the issues here is that they're being bought out by an agency. In the movie, they're being bought out by Arab conglomerates,
right.
And they're afraid this is going to totally radically change the total content that their news is going to be.
Right.
Is it important for a news network to choose? Like on top of all that, let's add one more to it. Yeah. Like how, like in network. In the 1970s,
yep.
Actually, they talk about how the news network was done at a loss.
Right.
How it was thought of as being a service for the people that we would do the news, but then we go on to our normal programming.
Right.
Like how much do we how much do we do as a service when it comes to the news, and how much do we do for the purposes of making money?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not even sure we even have. I'm not sure we know.
Yeah.
Like sadly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we know. Like even something as simple as, like I think the ABCs, CBS, NBC, even Fox News, just general Fox News is generally they're slanted one way or another. But I'm not sure we know what the influence is. And the example I was going to use is ABC. I think like David Muir seems pretty middle of the road. He doesn't seem to have a slant on things, but. Are there times when he doesn't report something negative about Disney because Disney owns them?
Right.
I don't know, and I'm not sure we would know.
Yeah.
There's things like that I'm not sure that we could be aware of. I think it's stuff that's probably going on, but we don't have any real way of knowing.
Yeah, until we're actually in the studio, hearing the conversations about what they're choosing to actually put on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, here's another question: how important is showmanship when it comes to the news?
I think that's a part of it, but I think that. I think sadly it's a part of it because that's what people want. They want the show. They want to be entertained. But there's part of me that wishes it wasn't that way. So that it was just a Walter Cronkite reading the news and people trusted him and believed in him that he was telling them the actual news. I think local news is like that a little bit because there it's more like you like Chet and Nat or something like that. So you watch them. But I think at the bigger, I don't know, I think people like to be entertained, unfortunately. That's why they go to Fox News and stuff like that. They go for the entertainment value as much as they go and because they're getting told exactly what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that as far as...
That's okay.
I think the showmanship is a big part of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you get away from that.
There was a time period where people like Walter Cronkite would come out and they would just tell us what was happening, and we did not question Walter Cronkite because we trusted that man.
Right.
We still, many people trust that man. But like something happened in the 1970s where the entire system stopped being trusted. And I'm just wondering, is it a good thing or a bad thing that our news reporters stop becoming these statues that we are all trusting of? Like, is it important that a news source becomes trustworthy, like above all else, or is it best that we, the people, are skeptical?
I have to say, I think we are, and not to get political or anything, but I think we are at a point right now where we are desperate for a news source that everybody could trust, that everybody could look at and go, okay, well, that's the truth. Right. Because it's so, there's so much news that is just slanted the way that people want to hear, and so that's all they're watching. So all they're hearing is one side of issues and stuff like that. I think that's part of the problem. So they're watching one network because they're being told that network is telling them what they want to hear, and they're not hearing any alternative views. And there doesn't seem to be one source, because even if you say PBS is neutral, because I think for the most part it is, you talk to some people and they think, PBS is communist, and that's there. You're not hearing all you're hearing is what the Democrats want you to hear because it's PBS. Right. Well, I don't think actually that's necessarily true, but and you couldn't possibly say that Al Jazeera gives you the straight poop, because that's not, because nobody's gonna.
We as a country just have a problem with the idea.
I think we're in desperate need of that, but I'm not sure how we get that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we can go back to that. I think something has to happen for us to be able to go back to something like that. I think it's too late, I guess.
Right.
Not to be doom and gloom, but I kind of think it's maybe a little too late.
Yeah. Let me bring up a quote. Max tells Diana that she is television incarnate, indifferent to suffering, insensitive to joy. All of life is reduced to common rubble of banality, war, murder, and death, all the same to you as bottles of beer. So here's the question: is television soulless? What is it? If it is, what does it say about us?
I don't know if television is soulless.
Yeah.
I think that, like in this movie, I think that she is soulless because all she cares about is ratings.
So here's another question: is Diana evil?
No, I think she's like a ratings-aholic, I guess, or something like that. That's all through the whole movie. That's really all she cares about. Even when she is having her fling with Max, ratings are still the more important.
While they're in bed, after they get done the sex,
all she's talking about
entire process.
All she's talking about.
Yep. That is all that's on her mind.
He never says a word. She's kissing his hand while they're sitting having a drink or whatever. All she's talking about is her shows and the ratings she hopes to get for the Mao Zedong Hour. And it's And then there's the Frank Hackett character, Robert Duvall's character.
Yeah.
All he cares about is money and corporate. That's all he cares about. He doesn't really even care anything about it. He doesn't care if Howard Beale is crazy. He doesn't care if Howard Beale is going to kill himself on TV. He doesn't care. All he cares about is. That's why when I backed off about the Faye Dunaway for Best Actress, she doesn't really change. She doesn't have it. There's no transition or anything.
She does a spectacular job doing that one character throughout the entire movie. Yep. But you're right, it's not a transitional character.
No, she just kind of. But she's great at it.
Yeah, it seems like the movie has a lot to say about the silent generation. Compared to Generation Me, which is like the major difference between Max and Diana. Yep. I was just wondering if how much that felt like what are the differences between that combination versus Generation X and the Millennials? Or do you count yourself as part of Generation X?
It's funny. I don't even know what those
it's
those
such
are.
a rubber term nowadays. Here's a question. Okay, this show, network happened to mention the TV show Phyllis, and I had to go back and look up what Phyllis is. Do you know what Phyllis is?
Of course. Of course I do. Remember, I was 11 when this movie came out.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to be 54 years old.
Yeah.
So, of course I knew what Phyllis was. I never liked that show. But I liked
a lot of people didn't. Its ratings spiked for 4 weeks, and then everybody decided, no, we don't actually like this.
I think it was just running off of the popularity of her character and Mary Tyler Moore. So
right.
But it is funny seeing that. It was Phyllis, All in the Family.
All in the Family. All in the Family is understandable why they were just it's beating All in the Family. That's crazy. It's beating Phyllis. Who cares?
Right. Yeah. I don't know what generation I am. It's one of those things I've never really thought about it or whatever like that. I have to say, between whatever generation or whatever, I think the generation now, I have a son who's 24 years old. I think that he and his friends, at least that I see them with, they seem to be less me-focused than the me generation was.
The me generation,
They seem to be less, that seems to be less important to them. So it makes me hopeful that maybe things will be changing. And I was before that, so I was like, I got to see it, but I was in college in the 80s, so it was, I was more I don't know what you call us. I was before the selfish era, but it was at the same time I was more, I don't know, we were just dumb, I guess. I have no idea.
Just dumb. I like that, actually. Our generation just stupid.
I was the generation before that I think I was the last generation where there were, college wasn't super expensive.
Yeah.
I didn't leave with a lot of debt. And I didn't grow up with money and stuff like that. It was like just, I went to school and it wasn't that, my first semester of college was $700.
Right.
For the semester.
Yeah.
That's, and also when I graduated from college, there were lots of jobs that I could just stumble onto. I've always worked for newspapers, even though I had nothing to do with my degree.
Right.
But there were newspaper jobs that I go and get a good salary, enough that I could buy a house. Those things don't really exist anymore.
No, it is a very different industry. I wish I had a follow-up question for that. I feel like that was follow-up question territory, and I ain't got it. The president of the company. He says that the international system of currency, which determines the totality of this planet, that is the natural order of things today. How accurate is what he's saying? Is this bluster, or does he have his finger on it?
The pessimistic side of me says that he has his finger on it.
Yeah.
I try to be more optimistic than that isn't the way.
Yeah, here's another way of putting it. Let's say, are we a world of nations or are we a world of corporations?
I think we are a world of nations, but I think there are big nations. I think the nations like the United States, or if you count Europe as a whole, I think there's part of me that thinks that they are more. That segment of our world is more a world of corporations than it is nations. But then there's a whole bunch of little nations that don't have any of that, so they're their own, I guess. Yeah. I don't know exactly what the definition of a nation is necessarily, but I think there's lots of little countries out there, stuff like that, don't have any idea even what our country and Russia and China are doing.
I was just given the 5. So let's ask a couple of ending questions. One of the questions is, had they not killed Howard Beale at the end, how would UBS be able to move forward? Like, what would be like the best way for this massive company to deal with the loss of their beloved anchor?
In this movie, I think their only out would have been either to do what they did, to kill him, or to conjure up some other kind of scheme where he goes bonkers and then they show like news footage of him being like in a straitjacket and being locked away or something like that. They would have had to do something crazy and over the top.
I'm gonna list some plot points because Chayevsky's script came up about 10 years ago. It popped up at a library. So he has his original draft and he's got like 3 other endings that he wrote down that he was looking into. So we'll figure out which one you actually like all of this. One of them was all the networks will have been bought out by other multinationals. So like every network is now owned by a multinational. The other one is that UBS declares war on Chile, like that it starts acting like a country and starts sending in troops. And the other one is a terrorist organization kidnaps Beale as a way of attracting attention to their group. You got those 3 separate endings. Like which one do you think you would go for?
Wow. I think the one where they started a war would have been fascinating, but I don't know how you end, like, I guess they could have ended with that.
This is part of the problem. They feel like whole movies. They feel like sequels.
It seemed like that would have had to have been like something to end with, but would have been a sequel coming or something like that. It almost seems like too much. You couldn't just end with that. It's too much of a... and the kidnapping Howard Beale, that would be the same as like him going crazy and putting him straight. It'd be another crazy over-the-top ending for them. What was the other one?
Everyone's owned by a multinational now. All the other studios get bought out.
And I think that would have been a feasible ending, where they could have ended it with like that, even if it was just like showing like a newspaper, showing like when they show like the 4 screens of like the news coverage, having to say like, that ABC was bought by, whatever,
It certainly would have been more realistic. I mean, it's the world we live in.
And really would have been more realistic as far as like foreshadowing what was to come with the networks. Though I couldn't tell you. Who owned ABC in 1970s? I don't have any idea.
I don't know
I
off the top of my
assume they were
head.
their own company, but I don't know. I have no idea. So,
I guess the premise is being made by this is that they can run their own news however they want to, you know?
I think given those options there, I think the way they went was the way to go. Because I think it was taking it to that even next crazy level that they were escalating things to, and they were frantic about his ratings dropping. So, you know,
Yeah.
and it also leads to that comic part of it too, where they're sitting in the boardroom and discussing killing him, and Hackett's character says, well, before we proceed with this, I'd like to get some more opinion on the killing of Howard Beale. And it's like, it's not that they're questioning doing it, he just wants to get more opinion. He's not objecting to it. It's like, it's so crazy and funny. I think that it, you know.
One last question. Max left his wife. He destroyed his marriage in the process. He breaks up with Diana. He hurts Diana terribly. When the decision of what to do with Beale comes up, Diana doesn't waver. She
Nope.
has changed not a bit, and she just says, oh yeah, we should just assassinate Beale. That's a problem. Did Max kill his friend?
No, I don't think so, because I think she would. I actually don't. I think because she is cold-hearted in
Yeah.
a way. I think that, much like everything else, she was a little softer outside of the office. Once in that office there, she is always the same. I think that her response would have been exactly the same no matter what.
Right.
Even if they were still on a risk, she would have still gone back in there and said, no, we have to do this.
Yeah.
Because all that mattered to her was the ratings. She didn't care about anything else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, great movie. We like it.
I love it.
I
I
love
think it's
Network. Had
fantastic,
you
yeah.
not suggested this probably would have been one that I would have tried to I've done a show where I actually chose myself as a guest, was a guest, and I threw a movie out there.
Yep.
Network's great. I absolutely love Network.
Me too. Me too.
It was great having you on, Dave.
I appreciate it.
Is there anything you want to push? You're going to be making a video coming up soon.
I am putting together a thing about Earl Welsh, who is 86-year-old drum teacher in the city of Haverhill, who's been teaching drums to kids in the city for 56 years.
Yeah.
And he's at Be Imagine Studio now and still teaching, and so that's something I'm working on.
Yeah,
So
that will probably be up before this episode goes up. So you
Probably
can check
will,
out Haverhill Community TV, and you'll find it there.
Right.
You find my show on YouTube, like and subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Thank you for coming down, guys. Thank you for being on, Dave.
I appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
All right, let's have some pretzels.
All right. Cool. All right.